Can you get leads from cold email if you don't have big case studies or big names to drop? I get this question all the time in my DMs. I just got it over the weekend again. So I want to show you a number of ways that you can indeed get leads from cold email, even if you've never worked with any clients before, you have no names to drop, you have zero case studies, you're literally just getting started, and you're looking to get your foot in the door. It doesn't really matter if you're talking about cold email at volume or one-to-one outreach. This applies to all of this, though I'm thinking about it in the context of more scalable cold email. It doesn't actually matter because this, even though there are tactical solutions that I'm about to share with you, we first have to understand the underlying strategic problem, right? So let's say you can't name drop any of the big names that I can. You don't have million-dollar sales days. You don't have to give up and go find a job at Starbucks or McDonald's. You can get your foot in the door. But to do that, before we talk tactics, you have to understand what the case study is actually doing, because a case study is not the most powerful demonstration of your ability. All a case study is it's a display of competence, right? It's showing your prospect that you can get them results. But that's not as powerful as actually getting them results, right? It's just one way of implying that if we work together, you're probably going to get results. But even if you have the case study, you're not all the way there. You still have to go a little bit farther and close the sale, right? So let's back up and talk about, well, if you're not going to use the case study, how could you strategically display your competence to a prospect? Let me give you a number of ways to do that. The first way is something that does not scale. So this would only be for one-to-one outreach, a reverse consultation. That's where you write someone on, say, your Dream 100 list, or you've pinpointed a specific person that you want to work with. Again, this does not scale. And you say, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'd really like to work with you. I do XYZ, but instead of pitching on my services, I'd like to hire you. I'd like to buy 30 minutes of your time, consult me on your business so I can see where I might be able to fit in. Something like this. So this is you paying up front for their time. You have reciprocity built in. You also have the expectation set up that you want to work together, and your goal of the call is figuring out how you might work together. They are consulting you on that. And this has, for me, it has a 100% success rate. Most people won't ever do this. One of my students who has done it turned $250 into $10,000, spent $250 in a reverse consultation, turned it into $10,000 in sales. So it can be really effective, but it doesn't scale and it does cost something. So if you're like, dude, not this, don't worry, I have some more approaches that you can take that don't have any upfront cost attached to them. But if you know someone that you really, really want to work with, consider using this. And again, as I often talk about, think of your business and client acquisition in terms of dollars out and dollars in, you're not just trying to save money, you're trying to get the biggest ROI and ultimately earn as much as you can. So this might be an option in some cases. But let's say, okay, it's not. You don't want to spend any money. You have no money. You have no case studies, no money, no time, you can't wait, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then what can you do? Another thing you can do is you amp up your risk reversal. And this isn't just a get XYZ or you don't pay sort of situation. There are a couple, I have a big list of risk reversals, about 10 risk reversals that you could test, but two of my favorites for this situation are a beat the control style of project. So if you're a copywriter like me, you might find someone's sales page, find some places where you could optimize it, rewrite the headline, fix the offer, whatever it is, and propose to the prospect, hey, don't pay me anything up front, pay me 100% of the first month's increase. So if I take you from $50,000 a month to $100,000 a month, you pay me the increase in that first month, and then after that, everything is yours. That's a pretty good offer in a lot of cases. Because unlike, say, a revenue share deal where you're in their pocket forever, they don't have to pay you up front, and you get out of their pocket after 30 days, and they get to keep everything else. So that's a pretty good option. But you could also add to that, you're taking part of the commissions in advance. So maybe you take a $500 deposit, $200, $1,000, whatever it is, something as part of your qualification process to make sure that you're not dealing with people who are not going to pay. you might include that. I'm pretty comfortable with qualifying at this point. I wouldn't do this in every situation, but you have to be the judge of that. If you haven't worked with a lot of clients, probably do this because you might not know what all the red flags are, and you might not know how to do that analysis, and then you're going to be much safer by asking for something, some sort of token amount up front. You could also do other risk reversals. There are lots of other risk reversals, but the point is the amount of proof that you have and the amount of risk reversal that you do, you can think of them as inversely proportionate to each other. So if you have a crazy amount of proof, you probably don't need any risk reversal. If you have no proof at all, amping up your risk reversal is a great way to get extra attention. So these are two ways that you could implement that. There are others. Be creative with this. I don't know your specific business, your offer, your audience. So within that context, think of some other things that you could do to make it easier for them to give that initial yes, get your foot in the door. One thing that I'll add about the beat the control example, I talked about rewriting a headline. I've done this for a client and had him go from 50,000 one month to 100,000 the next. It took me less than 20 minutes of work because all I did was rewrite the headline and a little bit of the lead, like the first 200 words. So when you're doing something like this, you also want to find something that's a really small project. You don't want to be doing 100 hours of work for free, but if it's going to take you 30 minutes and you get paid on the upside, that to me is a good deal. If you do that 5 times and it only works once, you still win. That's the sort of thing you want to be looking for. Okay, but that's not the only option. Say you don't even want to do any of this. Well, then you have the option of increasing the amount of personalization that you do. So this might mean going away from scalable cold email and switching to just one-to-one outreach, because that lets you do the maximum amount of personalization. Personalization, and I'm not talking about like the first line in an email and say, hey, I saw your great post about XYZ specific thing. I'm talking about going much deeper than that in terms of personalization. I'm talking about doing an actual analysis of their website, their social media, their emails. It depends on what you do, right? Something specific to them. So yes, you personalize the first line of the email, but you also personalize like the meat of the email. You talk about their specific offer, their specific situation, and opportunities for you to help or contribute, right? So when you're doing that one-to-one, that personalization is your display of competence, right? You're saying, you're showing, I understand what you're doing. I understand how to make it better. Let's talk about that, right? Now you can do this to some degree at scale. If say you have a list of contacts, you can make a custom field in your list. I'm not going to show one right now, but suffice to say that if you have a big list of contacts, it could be 1,000, it could be 3,000, it could be 100, you can go down that list and find something unique to say about each one of those contacts, and then insert that as a custom field into your email, the same way that you can insert their first name or their company name or any other field. So you can actually create a custom field, and in your CSV file, in the spreadsheet that you're going to upload with your contacts, you can take a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes per contact. And yes, this takes time. So this is sort of striking a balance between, okay, I don't want to do one-to-one, but I want to get a higher response rate on my scalable cold outreach. This is a way to sort of strike that balance. It costs some time, but you can do this and personalize, say, the first line of every email, so it could only be to the specific person you're actually talking to. So this is a pretty effective technique that you can use if you have more time than money, right? Another example of, so let me give you a specific example more of this. It could actually be for either. Let's say you do email marketing. You could go down that list of contacts that you have, 1,000, 3,000, whatever the number is, 30,000. It doesn't make any difference. Or you could have a VA do this for you and opt into every email list on your list of contacts. And then what you could do is you could set up an email campaign that's set to launch in 90 days or 100 days and say, hey, I've been on your list for, I signed up to your email list on date or 90 days ago, 3 months ago, and I've analyzed every single email that you've written since then, and I have some ideas for you. Would you like a 3-minute video on that? You could do something like that. So this is going to cost you time in the sense that there's a waiting period. You also have to sign up for all the lists, but that would probably garner some response. That's pretty interesting. Not a lot of people are sending that email. I'm not going to tell you how do I know that? You can guess. I have sold email marketing stuff through cold email before, and I also play the long game. So you could set that up today or over the next week, and then 3 months from now, you'd have this going out. What else could you do? You might also then have another sequence that goes out 12 months from now, because if you say, I've analyzed all the emails you've sent out over the last year, that's really going to get some eyeballs opened. So those are some ways that you can send something that's highly personalized. As you'll notice with this final example, the email script is not the personalized bit, it's the second step. So when someone replies to you, it's the feedback that you're giving that's going to be personalized. But in any case, that would be a pretty cool display of competence, I would argue. So those are two of the things. And then let's look at the final thing, engineering a response. So the other thing, or engineering an advantage, which is really about specificity. I've talked about this before. I'll talk about it a little bit again. What I would recommend you doing is breaking down your offer, the service that you provide, into discrete steps, as many as possible. I'm not going to go deep into this because I talk about this in depth in other videos, but essentially you're breaking your service down into all the different steps, the problem that each step solves, the outcome that each step provides, and if you have it, any proof of that. It can be you've done it for yourself, you've seen someone else do it, you've done it for a client, whatever it is. Or in some cases, it could just be maybe you haven't done it, but you know what outcome it provides. This allows you to approach people with something that is more unique, more specific than everyone else who's saying, hey, I'll double your business or increase your revenue by $30,000 or $100,000 or $1 million per month, or anything that's sort of global and aggregate, right? Instead of trying to compete with that, you're going narrow and specific and trying to pick out pieces of the process that your target audience is actually struggling with and is going to respond to. So by increasing specificity, the specificity of your offer, this is a way that you can get your foot in the door where the aggregate, like, oh, can I help you increase your email revenue by 30,000? I've never had a client. Well, okay, if you break down what that is, you've got the autoresponders, you've got broadcast. Within autoresponders, you've got welcome sequences, upsell sequences, abandoned cart sequences, and so on and so on and so on, right? There are so many things that email marketing is comprised of, and you can probably even break those down, right? Break down a welcome sequence into the first mail, the first email, the first week, the first month. Like, there are multiple ways to do this. And you have to figure this out for your own service, of course. But when you do that, that is going to give you approach angles that probably no one else is talking about. Now, you're going to have to test. I can't tell you that number 3 is going to work the best. I don't know that. But that's going to give you things to try. And that's why I like scalable cold email, is because you can test a bunch of these things at once. So those are 4 ways, and frankly, more than 4 ways. 4 ways with a bunch of sub-variations of how you can get your foot in the door without having proof. And the next step for you would be actually choosing some of these and testing them, because like this pretty much always works because there's the upfront cost. But if you're testing any of these other approaches, you might test one of these against another one of these and see which one performs better. Or you might fill out this sheet and test 3 or 4 or 5 at once. I have a campaign running right now where I'm testing 6 different angles at once to see what performs the best. Now, I'm sending a lot of email. You might not start with that sort of volume, but the point is, if you don't have proof in the classic sense of case studies or names to drop, you can manufacture your own sort of proof, that is your own display that you can do the work using one or multiple of these approaches. So hopefully this helps. Let me know how this goes, and I will see you in another video.